Students. So one of you came in for a revision session yesterday and was talking about market orientation. So I thought market orientation, product orientation, clearly they go hand in hand. They're all part of the Theme 1 research methods unit. So I thought, well, may as well do a case study. Apple have announced today that they have got a fall in sales of their iPhones across the globe. Now, I didn't realise that iPhone 15 has been around for nearly 4 years, and normally we see a 2-year product life cycle on iPhones. Clearly, when they brought out a 5G model, which was, I think 5G first came out with the iPhone 14, there was not much development in the product. Since then, AI, as we know, our AI overlords are taking over. AI, Google Pixel, massive promo campaign around obviously cameras and AI assistants. So iPhone 16, watch this space. They're going to need a game changer, or maybe they'll lose even more market share to the likes of Samsung, Huawei in China and stuff like that. So this is an article from the BBC, which I will put up in a bit. It is a bit long, but then again, your A-level students, I'm sure you'll cope. Before we go on, we should go through the definitions. I've put some advantages and disadvantages here in context with the case study that you will read. There's a nice graphic over here, which I have taken from Google's website this morning. And here we can see there's a nice quote from someone. Number one most innovative company in consumer electronics. And a lot of that is to do with their integration of AI in their phones. Is this a game changer for Google? Well, according to them, they're the most innovative company, and Apple normally pride themselves on innovation, quality, and all of those sorts of things. If they lose that USP, maybe they become the Nokias of the future. Okay, Nokia, remember, used to be the number one brand of mobile phones on the planet. Motorola, Edexcel, I bet some of you have not even heard of Edexcel mobile phones. They were massive. And then smartphones came along, okay? And Apple, the little known, nearly bankrupt computer company, suddenly iPod, iPhones, the rest is history. Don't think that these market leaders will always be market leaders, but trust me, they want to stay market leaders. Let's hope they won't make the same mistakes as Nokia. Anyway, product orientation, it focuses on the product itself. It's thinking about the market clearly. We're not going to suddenly invent a mobile phone that, I don't know, you can make cheese with. Actually, it'd be quite popular. But if you think about it, you're trying to invent the innovation of the future. So, for instance, we've got the introduction of 5G. I think it was iPhone 14 actually, but never mind. So if you can come up with the next new thing, and the stuff we talk about in classes, someone invented the internet and now we can't live without it. Someone accidentally invented Viagra and created this massive market segment that nobody knew would even exist. Absolute game changer, and for a long time Viagra was the most profitable drug that Pfizer had. So if you think about it, the game changers come from product orientation, and obviously we know about the risk elements to link into Ansof's matrix, and we understand the Boston matrix with those cross-promotional benefits or pitfalls, and look at a video earlier today on Boston matrix and Aston Martin. So we're thinking about those disadvantages. Well, I could invent something that there's just not demand for. You might be too early. Go and Google Sinclair C5, the first electric commuter vehicle. Well, I'm afraid you were 30 years too early, Sir Clive. And unfortunately, that didn't end well. So market orientation is really thinking about that consumer research, looking at trends, predicting the future. It's not just looking at past and current trends, it is predicting the future. So things like AI in mobile phones for Apple, Well, that's not product orientation, is it? Because they'll be following someone. I think the first mobile phone to put in AI in some ways did start that journey to revolutionize. Let's see what Apple do. I'm sure that they will try and do something better than Google, Samsung, and other companies. So we've got that most likely to satisfy. We're talking about existing product, existing market, and we all know what Igor Ansoff would say about that. But it might be that, yes, I can predict performance, sales and stuff like that, but it might be that I miss out on the potential, more riskier, but the potential sales of coming up with something new. Yeah. And then we can think of, the problem is we lose out on some of that innovation, and one of the reasons, according to the press today, that iPhone sales are down across the globe is their products are not innovative compared to some of the competitors, and they've not really updated it. And the press at the moment are saying that Apple are just seemingly a little bit lazy. I'm sure Apple will take that feedback to heart, and hopefully iPhone 16 will be amazing. So here is the very long case study. I've lifted this from the BBC today, not the Times. Times haven't written about it yet, even though they did report on Times Radio this morning. You should be listening to Times Radio in the morning, business students. Half an hour's worth of news in the morning. You can pretty much pick up everything that's going on, except for they do focus on some things a little bit too much. But that's the music industry. So here is some lovely stats. We've got 4% declining sales. Oops, that's not meant to be there. We've got the link into AI. We've got China market dropped by 8%. It is a beautiful article. Thank you, BBC. One reason I enjoy paying my license fee. Now, I thought about two questions here for you. I'm only going to walk through one of them, actually, but you should plan both, as this is a revision video. So we've got one of those nice 4 markers. I've lifted this from and changed it from the Rolex case study we had in a past paper. I've literally just changed the name Rolex to Apple. So you've probably done this one in class. This is an opportunity to plan and write this in 5 minutes. Okay, so very easy, very long case study, the equivalent of probably 2 extracts in a paper, but explain one way in which market orientation is important to Apple. Okay, so you're thinking about the benefits, why is it important to Apple, and we know that we're going to define. Okay, now that's my plan for a 4 marker. I'm not going to plan much more. I would write the definition for market orientation. I would then go to the case study and identify 2 ways that they have orientated their phone possibly to the future. So I've already underlined AI, for example. I'm thinking when the iPhone 16 comes out, they might put AI in it. That's market orientated, for example. Here we've got assess the likely importance of product orientation. Okay, so obviously likely importance, and we're looking at likely importance to what? Well, it's to Apple. So we're looking for things to do with current business situation, goals. We've got drops in sales, drops in market share. We've got decline in revenues. I've got loads of possible targets here that I could easily put in here. Likely importance 10 marker. This is one of those nice 10 markers. P, it is important. P, well, there might be other things that are more important. Overall, is it important or not? Yeah. And justify, yeah, without product orientation. What's the future look like? Bit bleak, really. Quite a nice one there. Okay, pause the video, read the case study. Did you pause the video? No, you didn't. But never mind, we will move on. We won't hold it against you. So thinking about the 10 marker, likely importance, start of the hook. Product orientation is our knowledge. Likely importance of this to Apple. Go to the case study, aims, objectives based on whatever's in the case study. Easy peasy. 3 chains of argument, make sure it's contextualized, and write it in 12 minutes. Okay, well, write it in 10 minutes, 2 minutes to get the evidence from the case study, 1.2 minutes per mark. We're not going to do that one. We'll do a 4 marker. Now, students at this stage in the upper sixth are tending to focus a lot on the essays, especially the 20 markers, especially the financial 20 markers that some of you might be struggling with. However, if you mess your timing up at the beginning of paper 1, paper 2, remember 16% of paper 1 and paper 2 are 4 markers, you mess your timing up, you're going to be stuffed when you come to the end of your paper. And that's why examiners tend to mark quite a few blank pages when they're examining, and it would break their hearts to think that people have been studying for nearly 2 years and they've left a blank page. Now, that might be for a number of reasons, but I think as a business Dalmatian, the main reason is students balls their timing up at the beginning of the paper because they over answer the easy questions. And the easy questions are the 4 markers and the 10 markers. 10 markers you don't have to write a lot. In paper 3, it's the 8 markers and the 10 markers because they get over answered, okay? Leave enough time for the more complex ones, the 12s and the 20s. And we call those the differentiators because they differentiate between those people that deserve an A or an A star and those that don't, okay? Most common blank page in a paper will be the 2nd to 12 marker because that's about when students suddenly realise that they've messed their timings up and those questions are generally quite difficult. Marker orientation. So we would start our 4 marker with a definition, and if it was me, I would define first, then go and get my evidence. At least I know what I'm looking for in the case study, and once I've found it, I'm stopping reading and I'm going back and writing these easy ones. Now, I know that Apple sell phones, so I'm going to drop in designing phones in there. It's a little bit of context, but we'll see. Market orientation focuses on understanding and satisfying customer needs through designing phones in context with market trends. Bit of context. We now need 2 pieces of evidence from the case study of something to do with designing phones and or market trends, customer needs. Yep. So one example is, and I like using this, another example is, because a common mistake in 4 markers is that students tend to forget that second application point. We are not writing an essay. I would encourage you to write this in a list, and then you won't be writing logical chains of argument and stuff. One example is the increased iPhone sales in China, addressing regional consumer preferences. Okay, so this is satisfying customer needs. It's in context with the definition. I knew what I was looking for when I went to the case study. Another example is that Apple are planning new AI features for the iPhone 16, responding to customer demand for advanced technology. I'm not just saying Apple are planning AI. Okay, well, I don't know what that means. You have to explain it to me. Talk to me like I'm a very young Dalmatian and I find it hard to understand things. Simplify it. If I've defined properly, I'm linking that back to the definition, and therefore it's crystal clear that I'm answering the question. More importantly, as a student under pressure, 17, 18-year-old students in an exam hall sweating in the summer, at least you know you're answering the question and you won't procrastinate, you can move on. Then we've got to come back to the question. Now here, I've written this as if I'm a student under stress, and I've sort of accidentally defaulted to the benefit of this is by aligning product innovations with market demands helps maintain competitiveness against Google and potentially boosting sales. Okay, now in the case study, it says about competitiveness, it says about stuff. I showed you a picture of Google earlier, which was, I've sort of used that as extract B, and potentially boosting sales. We know that that's an issue from the case study. Now, the question is talking about is important to Apple. I've accidentally put the benefit of this. Well, I think you'd probably get away with that, to be honest with you. But if I was writing an EBI on this, even better if for my students, I would say, please use the word important or importance in that overall benefit answering the question. Actually, I think it's okay. Remember, in essays, your 10s, 12s and 20s, we're not aiming for perfection, we're aiming for level 4. Ignore that for 4 markers. We are looking for full marks. We are looking for perfection. So if you write it in a bullet point style, don't use bullet points please, because it winds examiners up. Please write it in a list. Then you've got a better chance of remembering that second example. The amount of these that I tend to mark where I've got multiple impacts, impact, impact, impact. Even my impact statement in that the benefit of this, there's 2 in there. I accidentally wrote that, that's fine, it was quick. But if you're writing impact, 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 there's only 1 analysis mark. My experience is you've probably only used the case study once and you've still got 3 marks out of 4, and you've probably spent too much time on it. Hopefully that's not you, hopefully that was useful. And if you're one of my students, why don't you write that 10 marker and email it to me and I'll mark it. And if it's any good, as in if it's level 4, if it's perfect even better, but if it's level 4, cheeky merit for you.